Good morning and welcome to the Cottage Grove Convention and Visitors Bureau. This is our meeting for July 27th, 2021. I'm Steve Dennis, City Council member and also chairperson for this board. At this point, we would like to take roll call, and Christine, if you'd help us with that.
Sure. Chair Dennis.
Here.
Vice Chair Olson.
Here.
Director Levine.
Here.
Director Patel.
Here.
Excellent, thank you. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes. 3.1 is meeting minutes from our board back on the 23rd of March, 2021. Panel, is there any questions or changes we might want to institute there? If seeing none, I would seek a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Vice Chair Olson,
I'll second.
second by Director Levine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Next item is under business is number 4.1, which is the Visitor Bureau Projects Update, and Director Christine Costello will take us through that. Christine.
Good morning, board. It's nice to see you in person. As we were talking about earlier, this is our first meeting in person since COVID, and so it's nice to see you outside of square boxes. So, good morning. So to begin, we want to kind of give you an update of some projects that's happened to date. So I'll kind of go through a group of those. We did a photo shoot in May. One thing that we did lack is photos with people in it and activity. So what we did is we took photos at Las Margaritas, Muddy Cow, River Oaks, Eagles Bar and Grill, so we could have photos with interaction, with food in them, so we can eventually use these photos on social media and other marketing materials for the Visitors Bureau. We also took photos at the ice arena, River Oaks, kayaking photos down at Hazel P. Moore, kids camp, so we got some great kid shots as well as new hotel pictures. So it's great to have these in our arsenal now because we didn't have these before. We purchased a stencil for trails. We bought this before in March. So the trails are 8 feet wide. This trail stencil is 6 feet wide, and we'll look to spray paint the logo with the website address kind of at high visibility areas within the community. So we're thinking Woodridge Park, near the splash pad, Hamlet Park, Kingston, Lamar, bike path, and near the kayak launch if possible. So if there are any other suggestions of places, let us know. We're going to test the stencil in a couple weeks at Public Works, so we don't want to ruin any trails until we test application methods. Additionally, we did a one-page flyer that went out to Cottage Grove residents in the newsletter. This provided kind of an introduction to the Visitors Bureau and Eat and Shop Local. This was during COVID pandemic. Additionally, the ice arena held a hockey tournament in March. So former assistant to the city administrator, Matt Wolf, put together a flyer on the inside of where families could eat local, again, to promote our restaurants in Cottage Grove. Additionally, we did a snowmobile map. So we'll be handing out to more businesses here come fall. I did drop them off at the hotels, gas station at Almar Village, Marine 61, and so forth. So we have a ton of maps for people come snowmobile season, which sounds good about today and tomorrow. Additionally, HaveFunBiking.com. We are featured in this magazine. It is an online publication for those who prefer not to have kind of the booklet. We do have them here at City Hall, as well as the ice arena promotion of our trails here in the community. So with that, I can take any comments or questions.
All right, thank you, Christine. And I will say that looking at the progress made in all of those different publications and such, including the photographs, things look really nice from my perspective. So I'd like to open it up here for any additional feedback that we may have.
I will say, and Julie may touch on this later, as we move forward, we do want to get additional photos, so we cover Cottage Grove fall and winter as well. So we can showcase all seasons here in the community. So we look forward to doing that as well.
Very nice, thank you. Well, so we keep up the good work here for everybody. So, next item for us is 4.2, which is the first quarter lodging tax revenue and 2022 draft budget discussion. And Christine, you'll help us with that as well.
I will. So May 1st, 2020, we did start collecting the 3% lodging tax on all facilities that were classified as hotel, motel, rooming house. The funds are collected quarterly, and they're used to fund this board. We do collect it 30 days after the following dates you can see on the screen. In total, lodging collections for the first quarter of 2021 were $9,468 from all the lodging facilities. The total revenue was $1,590 below revenue projections for the first quarter. The second quarter, though, is trending in the right direction. So far, we've collected $13,400. Our monthly average is $4,467 with a projected revenue of $5,529 a month. And as you can see for second quarter, I saw an envelope in my mailbox, so Wakota Inn is in. So my guess is we're continuing to trend in that upward direction. The draft budget for 2022 was submitted and is kind of serving as a placeholder for the final budget for the board. It must be approved by City Council in November. The Visitor Bureau started at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, as I had mentioned earlier, being here in person. So we had to adjust revenue projections to account for the, downturn in the hospitality and lodging industry. Pre-COVID projections has annual lodging tax revenue between $66,000 to $71,000 using a 60 to 66% occupancy. The revenue projections for 2020 were adjusted to a 10 to 15% occupancy rate for a lodging tax revenue of $18,572. The 2020 final revenue equaled $29,758, showing a slow and steady return of occupancy rate over the year. The 2021 revenue projection used 40 to 45% occupancy rate for an estimate of $44,232 in lodging tax. The 2021 quarter one was $3,156 per month. That's again lower than projected. And the second quarter to date is $4,467. And again, that does not include Wakota Inn. This makes the case for the Visitors Bureau not having to date a reliable history on base projections. Until we have 2 or 3 years post-COVID, we won't really truly know what our occupancy rate is. So we're definitely projecting within these next few years, and that will reflect how we proposed our budget. Though we did continue to keep that 60% occupancy rate for 2022, so that would make that total revenue $66,348. Again, this doesn't include any grants or anything like that. We have 3 categories so far for expenses for the Visitor Bureau Board. And we're still kind of in the middle of carrying out some of our wants for that first quarter. For example, the trail, we also talked about stickers on park signs. And personally, as I got to think about stickers, they get faded and people pick at them. So I was thinking more of a small metal type sign so it wouldn't fade or disappear. So we're looking into the cost of things like that to move forward with. Under marketing, we continue to focus on social media and online marketing at $18,000, marketing and any future publications at $7,008. We have flexibility in the budget through the line item that states other types of advertising at $10,992, and then collateral development and printing at $3,000. Since bringing Julie on board and previously, when Matt was here, as we talked discussion-wise, printing is extremely expensive. So my guess is we will need to up that amount for any printing we do in the future, especially a visitor's guide, just due to the quality of the paper and what we want in it. In terms of operation, the day-to-day expenses are $1,280. I think it's very important that we become members of the Minnesota Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau at a cost of $390. Even I believe Julie has made connections with other Visitors Bureau and learning, kind of the tricks of the trade and so forth. Additionally, as part of operations, attending their annual conference, then contractual services for the city to operate the Visitors Bureau. Per the ordinance establishing the Visitors Bureau, charges shall be $10,000 per year or 25% of the total of the local lodging tax received by the city, whichever is greater. And you can see that reflected down below at the $15,756. The last category is kind of the other, and this is in regards to reimbursing the EDA trust fund and the EDA fund for startup costs associated to the Visitors Bureau. So for 2022, the total is $5,941. We make a total of two payments of $3,204 to the EDA trust, and then two payments of $2,750 to the EDA fund. So the total revenue projections of $66,348, and then proposed total expenses of $65,532 equates to a net income for 2022 of $816. So with that I have the draft budget on the next screen. So I would be looking for any comments, suggestions, additions, or changes the board would like to make for 2022. And I'll turn it over for questions.
All right, thank you, Christine. Directors, do we have any thoughts for changes or direction on this? Vice Chair Olson.
Christine, does this budget in front of us include the enhanced expense for printing?
Within that $10,000, yes, we would just move funds over from that towards the printing.
Okay, so this would accommodate that?
I think we could accommodate that.
Then I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts? Okay, well, thank you, Christine. I will say that it's nice to look at the bottom line and see we're operating in the black, even if it's $815, we'll take it. This is a brand-new entity, as many people know. And so one of the thoughts that I've had all the way through from start till now is that we took our time. We knew we were in a position of weirdness with COVID and everything, but we would take our time and, learn as we go and try to bring whatever good insights we could into it, which I feel that we are all doing and contributing. And I thank everybody up here and our staff for all the work as well. So thank you.
Do you need a motion to pass this budget? To approve it?
I think I'm good if you have no proposed changes.
All right, next item is 4.3, which is amendment to the rules and regulations of the CGCVB. And Christine again will help us.
Yes. So in December 2019, we actually established through the City Council the rules and regulations for this board and the Visitors Bureau as a whole. We did amend that then in early 2000 to reflect that our City Finance Department would issue any checks for the Visitors Bureau Board, but any documents that needed signature would be done by the board chair. As we've kind of moved on, one thing that kind of makes the Visitor Board unique is that 2 members of the board must be from the business community, and then 1 member from a major hotel, which Director Patel represents. I think it's important to note that not all members of the business and hotel community live here in Cottage Grove and do business elsewhere in the metro and state. So we were proposing 2 changes to the rules and regulations set forth. The first being changing from a monthly to quarterly meeting. We still have the ability to set a special meeting. So if the board chooses that they want to meet, something comes up, we can call a special meeting if there's a quorum to meet. And it doesn't mean that we can't, as we said previously, as those projections increase and there's more activity, go back to meeting monthly. But at this point, we thought maybe quarterly would be appropriate. That way, the meetings were meaningful and there was a large agenda for the board members to react to. The second proposed changes is in regard to absences. Currently, it states, just 3 absences in the board, basically you'd be removed. And that seemed kind of tight, so in talking with legal counsel, it's more common to do 3 or more unexcused absences. So it would just ask that any board member contact staff if they're unavailable to attend. That way it could be excused and that member could still continue on the board if they'd like. And so with that, I can take any questions or comments, and before you is a recommendation.
All right, thank you, Christine. So just 2 quick things. Number one, when we discussed this, it was wanting to be very respectful of everyone's time. We know people are busy, and we also very much appreciate our volunteers, excuse me, as they come in to help with this. And the second thing was just to, again, take things as we go, and knowing, how hard it is right now in this time period to get volunteers, to be as flexible as we can in terms of schedules and such for people. So at this point, is there any thoughts or concerns on these particular changes? Okay, so we do have a recommendation in front of us, and I would be looking for a motion to consider that recommendation.
I will move to approve the changes as recommended.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Olson, and I will need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Director Patel. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And next up for us will be item 4.4, which is social media marketing plan. And we have a new face here, Julie Pryor-Miller, who is our marketing and communications specialist, who has just joined the organization within the last, 3 weeks or so?
Yes.
And Julie, before starting, maybe you'd like to introduce yourself to the panel.
Yes, hello. My name is Julie Pryor-Miller. Like mentioned, I'm under 30 days here, so just a few weeks in, but super excited to be here and help out and work with Christine, and I was excited to work with Matt. But yeah, we have a lot of exciting things in store, and I'm just very, appreciative to be here with you all this morning, so.
All right, well, we're happy to have you.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, I will get started for the social media marketing plan. Just a little bit of background on this. The Cottage Grove Convention and Visitors Bureau right now currently has a Facebook account. By adding additional social media accounts, it's a very cost-effective way for us to promote the CGCVB. So it can really expand our reach in terms of everything that we can bring in. We'd also like to set up a blog to help promote various businesses and things within Cottage Grove. So I have done some research with other visitors bureaus, and they have really just simple blog posts, 5 things you can do on a Saturday with your family, or 5 things you can do with your dog here in the city, just things like that that kind of catch people's attention. It's quick, it's easy, it reels them in, and it brings you and drives them to the website where they can see all the other things that we have to offer. For the social media, I'd like to add Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Instagram is a very large platform similar to Facebook that we can really entice people with photos and communicate with them on there. Twitter is, of course, a place that people sort of flock to in real time to talk to each other and see what's going on, like in real time. I envision this like the Strawberry Festival and during Halloween time, things like that. It's just like more connective and engaging. Pinterest is a platform that I have been following Explore Minnesota, and they have a lot of boards on their account of other cities, and I'd really like to get on their page to be able to promote Cottage Grove, so when people are looking at Minnesota in general, they can see the things that we have to offer. That platform is something that takes a little bit of work at the setup, but once it's there, it kind of just lives there and people can come and find it when they're on that platform. LinkedIn, I envision using this platform to promote more of our meeting spaces and hotels, things like that, for more business-minded folks that are in the area. And then our YouTube page, I'd like to set up simply to house mostly some of the videos and drone footage that we received from the Seavers Creative Photo Shoot. That's sort of the best place to have that living there. So before you is my recommendation, and I would be happy to take any questions or comments.
Okay, well, thank you. Do we have any feedback? Vice Chair Olson.
Thank you and welcome. It's great to have you on the team. I appreciate all your hard work and your short time with us. A lot of good information here. The question that I have is, have you had an opportunity to benchmark some of the social media accounts that the city has currently to determine their reach, their effectiveness, the way in which other members of the community and the public at large engage with those? I do know that several departments in the city have their own social media presence, and I also know that the city itself has a social media presence in a few different areas. So I'm just curious if you had a chance to dig into some of that and determine what may or may not be working well for us today.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't have any formal numbers in front of me, but I have been sort of looking behind the scenes in the city accounts, the city of Cottage Grove, the Parks and Rec, and the fire and police accounts. One thing that I have noticed specifically within Cottage Grove is the engagement on those pages is really exceptional. Having been an administrator for other accounts in the past, I would say the Cottage Grove community is very active in their social media use. And so being on those pages, even Scott and I talked at one point, how can we reach more people? And we said, well, this is how many households we have, and it's almost the same number of people that we have on our pages. So what I would be hopeful for is that the Discover Cottage Grove could gain some of those numbers, and but also look to influence folks outside of Cottage Grove to come in. So a little bit different audience of what we'd be looking for and aiming for, but hopeful that the residents of Cottage Grove kind of pump up the page as well, just like they do with all the city accounts.
I appreciate your comments there because it's true that we have a very large population of engaged citizens in our community. All you need to do is monitor some of the various, Facebook accounts and what have you, and there's definitely a lot of chatter about, what's going on in the city, what may be coming, do we like it, do we not like it? My particular interest in asking the question is with respect to Twitter. The city of Cottage Grove has a Twitter account for the city, but it doesn't get used. It's just there, right? So my sense is there's a reason for that. Maybe we don't feel it's as effective as we'd like it to be. And so if we don't think it's working well for us, is that something that we want to do? Because even though it's free to get a Twitter account, it still works. Somebody has to monitor it.
Correct.
And what I don't want to do is have somebody be overwhelmed trying to, kind of put things in all these different places when we may not getting the return on the investment. So my only piece of advice would be, as much as I like all this, and I think we should move forward with it, we need to be diligent about monitoring the response rates and the effectiveness and the engagement. Because if we're just doing it to do it and it's not really giving us any benefit, we might want to take, one or two or three different platforms off of the list at some point.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. My original plan, I was going back and forth with if I should have all of these and really promote and connect, because I sort of have these in phases of how I'd like to roll them out. My idea with Twitter was to link our accounts with Facebook and Instagram, so when I'm pushing out a message, it goes to all of the platforms, so we can still be active. As much on any channel and not miss anyone, but I do respect your point about taking on too much, and I would be completely open to pushing Twitter to even phase 2 of our social media marketing plan and rolling it out afterwards if we want to, take our time with it.
I'm a Twitter person, so I like it, and I appreciate that you put it on there. And to your point about sort of pushing messages out in several different formats, we see that all over the place. We see it with the DNR, we see it with the State Patrol, we see it with the State Fire Marshal's office. I mean, I follow all those accounts on Twitter, and they have generally the same message on Instagram, Facebook, et cetera. And it's just a question of, what is your preferred social media platform and where are you going to find the message? There's a lot of people who don't use Facebook, but they might find it on Twitter. There's people who don't use Twitter or Facebook, so they might find it on Instagram. I completely agree with you.
Got it.
My only point is, let's make sure that as time goes by, if one or more of these don't work well for us, that we don't continue to make work for somebody if that work isn't being beneficial. That's all.
Great. Really good point.
Thank you, Vice Chair Olson. Any other thoughts or comments?
No.
All right.
Move
So
to
we-
approve the recommendation.
All right, motion made by Vice Chair Olson. Need a second?
I'll second.
And second made by Director Levine. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And next item is 4.5, which is the visitor guide ideas, and Julie will help us with that too.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through a little bit of background that you guys have already been presented with and lived through. But this image here on the left is a previous creative asset from Seavers Creative that they produced a sort of mock-up of a potential visitor's guide for the city of Cottage Grove. At the March 26th meeting, you had reviewed the draft and there was discussion indicated that the board would like to see something different on the cover, maybe some more action shots. So as part of the interview process for this new marketing and communications specialist position, candidates were asked to create sample advertisements and a plan of action for developing this guide. So I'm just gonna walk you through some of the images that I created for my interview. Nothing set in stone, just a complete mock-up for interviewing purposes. And I'll just tell you that before I created these images and, layouts, I looked a lot at other CVBs and what they had done. I had found that most of them do sort of more of a magazine look with their guide as a booklet, and they're kind of 8.5 by 11 size. Some vary a little bit. And then I really took the Cottage Grove CVB goals that you guys had already developed for marketing, and I tried to weave those into a plan for the visitor's guide. So I did some brainstorming and some visual ideation, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through a few different slides. This is one sample layout, 2-page layout for Hope Glen Farm. So my sample advertisements were more like wedding based for the visitor's guide to create new business and bring in those weddings since we have so many great venues here in Cottage Grove. So what I tried to do here is showcase some of the awards that Hope Glen Farm has won in this wedding category. Tried to place quotes inside from real life people saying, that they had an amazing time. And what I tried to do with the images was to create sort of a visual story for brides saying, it's not just about the I do, it's about getting dressed, being with your bridesmaids, having dinner with your family and friends, staying at this really beautiful place. You can have your whole day here and your wedding will be beautiful and amazing. I am just going to walk you through a couple more. This one is for River Oaks Golf Course. Their wedding capabilities as well. They're a nice scenic shot here. And then I have a sample advertisement that I created for Bellissimo. One of the points that I wanted to get across to potential brides and grooms viewing this is that in Cottage Grove, you can get all of your wedding services taken care of. If you get married here, you can get your hair, your nails, your eyelashes, your tan, everything. You can have a little spa day. You can do that here. And by the way, we have flowers, we have catering. You can really put all of your dollars into the city and have your wedding here and not have to worry about going to all these different places to pick up everything you need. Everything you need is right here, and it's beautiful. So here's Cedarhurst, a little peek inside, just sort of giving that same sort of experience and look that, you know, your day is going to be beautiful. And then here would be Ferber Farm. Same thing, you can visualize having yourself here the entire day. They've won some awards from, you know, Minnesota and the state of having, you know, a great wedding venue, and we want to promote that. That's a really great achievement. So again, I'm just kind of giving people, you know, I'm luring them in with the story that they can have everything here and it's going to be wonderful and beautiful for their event. So here is sort of all of them to kind of take a look. I know it's pretty small. This is sort of what I went over in my interview. And it was just a sample, but definitely I'm looking to you guys to see, do you like this? Do you like photos? Do you want to do more of the vector images that Seavers Creative had on the front of their cover? I didn't do a cover shot here. These would be inside pages, but it does go to the marketing plan that you want to promote these wedding venues. Excuse me, as part of the layout, you saw that I created these ads. So this is going to go into another piece of the discussion. I have created, oh, thank you. I have requested CVB materials from other CVBs from around the state. From the 11 I have received in so far, 9 of them contain ads, just like the sample ones that you saw in my presentation. Out of the 9 that do contain ads, all of the ads are from local sources within that CVB city, and in addition to sources outside of their defined area. So my proposition to the council is I would like to propose that we include ads in our CVB Visitors Guide to help offset the cost of production. So Christine mentioned $3,000 for printing. What I would like to do is first go to Cottage Grove businesses and say, we'd love to see you in our Visitors Guide. Let's get an ad in place for you. And let's talk about that price. You know, none of that is said or anything, but we'd love to showcase you and your business and be in this booklet, and that will help us in turn offset the cost of producing the Visitor's Guide, because it is, you know, a nicer looking publication and it could have a longer shelf life if we can offset some of those costs. So I would first go to Cottage Grove businesses only, give them a time frame of wanting to commit, and then if we had additional ad space after that, I would maybe seek out from Afton Alps or Whistling Well Farm, places like that that are also on our visitor webpage. So for discussion, also included in these guides, this is going to be just, we're thinking about the visitor's guide and we're thinking about possible layouts and possible ads. And then in addition to this, my question really is for you guys or for the board, how we would like to promote the visitor's guide. Is it an annual publication? Do we put it out as a publication and then update it every 2 years, or 1 year, you know, 6 months? What are we thinking about in the back of our minds about how we would like to have this live on shelves? So from the examples that I received, one of the guides has a 2021 events calendar. Everything else is very generic. They possibly just switch that calendar out every year. 3 of them did not have a date or a year associated with them. So I am very curious and excited to connect with the Minnesota Convention and Visitors Bureaus, the other folks around town, to see how long they let that live on their shelves for. And then 7 out of the 11 that we had were branded as 2020, 2021, so year visitors guides. So that is sort of all the things that I've been thinking about as we move forward and want to move forward with a visitor's guide. Would we like to have ads in it to help offset the production costs? Do we have questions or comments on the sample layout that I provided for my interview? Did we want to see something completely different, or, do we like this direction? And then just thinking about that time frame for the visitor's guide, do we like having a 2020, 2021? Or are we just maybe wanting to swap out maybe a calendar inside the visitor's guide? Some of these questions to get us thinking down the road about a time frame, because as we get closer and closer to December, January 2022, I just want to keep this in the back of our minds. So before you have a recommendation, I'll have any questions or comments you'd like.
Okay, well, thank you, Julie. That was a lot of information to cover. Great information, though, and a lot of things for us to think about. So if I were to just start out with some of my thoughts, and we'll kind of go down the panel here. I really did like your layouts. I thought that they were done in a very classy way. I like the formatting that we're doing here. Some of the things that I had talked about previously with Matt was, how could we set this book up? And so of different examples that I was able to get that I had passed on and shared with him, there were, as an example, there would be some introductory information about the community, maybe some different types of maps that we would put inside. There could be a component where we could map out by the 4 seasons, different highlights of things that happen here in the city of Cottage Grove. And then obviously the offset with selling advertising for businesses here that want to get in on the promotion. I think that's a substantial thing and something that we should do. So for me, I would probably, if it was just my piece alone, I would advocate for a once a year publication on it. And I think we can map out what we need to, and then we can also seek feedback from various sources within the community to see what their thoughts are on it. And then based upon feedback we get back, we can change and amend that as we go forward in time to make the product be better and better. But overall, I think we've got a really good start with it, and figuring out where we can hand these things out within the community will be key too. So I think it's just a really great start. So Lori, I'll start with you if you want to share.
Yeah, I love it. I love the pages. I love the storybook line kind of a feel of it. I think it's great. I agree, a yearly would be nice, and maybe if we need to do every other year to just kick it off because of the expense until more monies come in, I would be okay with that too. But the yearly, I do agree with the ad sales. In fact, as far as the chamber, we do a Connect magazine for our chamber members once a year, and we are rolling that out shortly. We will go to print deliver in January. So I do have all of our ads, pricing sizes, all of that ready. So if that's helpful, I'm happy to share that with you.
Thank you.
And is this going to be a mailed piece, or is this simply just going to be a piece that's all over town?
I would like to ask some additional people, but my initial thoughts would be that it wouldn't be mailed to residents because they live here and are spending their dollars here, but we would have it in hopefully places like different malls, the airport. We'd give it to realtors. I'd love to, get it in different areas that brides are seeing, snowmobilers, bike riders, things like that. Some areas that, we're hoping to attract people in.
Okay. Yeah, all in all, I love it. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Levine. Vice Chair Olson.
This is excellent.
Thank you.
You did this for your interview, correct?
Yes.
I would have hired you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you really did a nice job, and I think it captures both visually and artistically what we're trying to accomplish with respect to this body. The content is good. The photographs are great. They're very compelling. I agree annually is important. One of the reasons that I think annually is important is because, to your point of the calendar of events, we really need to ensure that our end users are out ahead of some of these events, and I'll give you a perfect example. Just this last weekend, we had a huge softball tournament in town. And it is my belief that several of the restaurants in town and other service-oriented folks in town may not have fully grasped that that was an event that was going to be here. And so as the restaurants were packed, the drive-throughs during lunch, even lunch venues like Subway, all of the dinner places over the course of the weekend. I'm sure the hotel was a very busy place with lots of softball players swimming in the pool, et cetera. Had they been fully aware that that was coming, had they had some foresight, they probably would have scheduled differently. They may have changed the way that they delivered their service. And so not only does this serve as just a terrific marketing tool, but it's also a good tool for planning purposes for local business. Hey, we're going to have this softball tournament in town. What kind of specials do we want to run? How do we want to format our own marketing to tie into what may be taking place in the community? So having that annual calendar, I think, is a really critical piece. But this is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Olson. Director Patel.
Yeah, no, excellent. Very beautiful. Other cities that I have properties in, they do it annually too, and that opened up a good revenue stream of restaurants wanting to put advertisements and things like that. So this is a great start because it's beautiful, and so I also agree annually would be a good revenue stream for us to help out with all this, and I 100% agree with the previous statements about foresights of seeing like that, these events and this, because sometimes the hotel industry, we're such a tunnel vision where it's like, okay, weddings. Oh, there's a whole big event coming. Oops. So it's nice to have that too. So
Great.
excellent.
All right, thank you, Director Patel. And then one last piece, which I think you wanted some guidance on, was the cover. And so
Yes,
I know we touched maybe at a past meeting on that, and here if we wanted to just give a recommendation formally, I think what Severs had created, although a nice concept, I don't think it really was the direction that we wanted to go as a team. So I remember specifically both Director Levine and Vice Chair Olson mentioning about having some great photography, some action shots, some showing people having a great time here in Cottage Grove. So if that's an acceptable thumbs up I'm seeing, we would like to include that as well. So at this point, unless there's any other feedback, we do have a recommendation here. We've reviewed, we've provided some feedback. Is there anything more that you would need from us at this moment?
What I'm hearing is an annual guide, acceptance of ads in the process, and some photography for the cover. Something very compelling and exciting that people want to open into. So I think I have received that, and if there's anything additional, please let me know. But I think that'll be a really great direction to go in.
Yeah, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing some mock-ups here as you start to lay this thing out, and now, of course, we'll all work together as a team in order to make that happen. Mr. Olson.
Thank you. This probably goes without saying, but I want to say it so that I know that I did. As you're thinking through the various photographs that you may want to use, in our previous discussion, as the chair mentioned, we talked about sort of those inaction photographs, people actually engaged in activities, doing something. And I also want to ask that we remain very cognizant of the diversity of our community. We have a very diverse community with respect to, lots of different differentiators. And so, we want to represent the entire community in these photographs.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point, and I will do my best to make sure things are diverse in terms of race, gender, ability, everything like that. I think that's very important as well.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. So at this point, we'll move on to 5, which is other business, and 5.1 is the Convention and Visitor Bureau comments. And we'll start out with anything that Director Levine might have.
The only other thing I would, back to the visitor's guide idea too, is just maybe at least exploring the whole mailing of the piece. And I do understand that, of course, we think that everybody in our community knows what we have in our community, but I find that that's not true. So I think that if we, again, I know that there's an expense to it. It's something that the chamber does. So I clearly understand that. But we've mailed for 2 years our guide, and I can't tell you how many people reach out afterwards, even knowing, like, I didn't even know that business was here. I didn't even, and so something like this, such a great, beautiful piece, and to get that out into every home in business, I think would be important if it's something that we could do this year.
Definitely. Julie and I will explore what that cost is once kind of the guide's developed, weight, thickness, size, and so forth, of what that costs, and we can bring that forward to the board.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Olson, any comments?
I echo the sentiments of Director Levine with respect to the mailing of the guide to all of our homes. As I mentioned earlier, our community is quite diverse, and we also, because of our development, have a lot of new residents. And especially as it relates to like our park and green space in the community, there are plenty of folks out there who have no idea how many parks we have, how many trail systems we have. The other thing that might be neat with regard to potentially mailing this piece is if you're thinking advertising, you're thinking reach. So if I'm a business who wants to advertise in the actual guide, and you can tell me that this is going to be distributed to, 13,000 homes in addition to X and Y and Z, that might put a little more emphasis on my desire to want to advertise with us.
And Director Patel, any closing thoughts?
No, I really like the direction we're going in. It's excellent. It's nice to see it working ground up and seeing other communities doing what we're kind of striving for. So I'm excited to see where this goes. So thank you.
Awesome. And then I have just a couple things to mention. Looking at when we talked earlier about some of the different social media things that we can do, one of them that was mentioned was YouTube, and I know that the city has done a good job of creating, I think, our own YouTube channel where we have videos and other pieces of information out there. And one of the things that might be kind of a good thing for us to do is to work with our communications manager, Scott Soroka, who's in the room, and our friends at SWCTC to see if we can get a short video put together. Talks about what we do here and introduce, ourselves to the community so that they can understand what it is that we're working hard for to accomplish and the value that we hope to bring to the city of Cottage Grove. And then speaking of introductions, since this is our very first meeting live here in front of the cameras, if my colleagues here would indulge me, I'd like to just provide a quick few seconds for each one of us to introduce ourselves to the community for what we do and what we bring to the panel. And
You're gonna start with
I'm going to start with you.
Oh, my mic's not on. There we go. I'm Lori Levine. I'm the Executive Director with the Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce. And I have been with the Commerce about just over a year and a half. So excited to be a part of the Visitors Bureau as well. And I've been in the community for over 30 years, and I love it. So I love the business community and love the community itself.
Thank you. Vice Chair Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Justin Olson. I'm a member of the City Council. I am also involved intimately with several volunteer organizations in the community, including our Cottage Grove Lions, our Beyond the Yellow Ribbon group for Cottage Grove and the surrounding area. And in my private life, I am a retail district manager. I've been a multi-unit supervisor in retail for almost going on 30 years now. That sounds like such a long time, but I remember it all like it was yesterday. So I got that going for me. I also have lived in the community virtually my whole life and really appreciate the opportunity to serve our residents, whether it's in this capacity, in my capacity on the council, or in my capacity as a volunteer. I really enjoy the fact that Cottage Grove is working towards this ultimate goal of really marketing the community to all of the wonderful people in the metro who may not know what a hidden gem they've got just minutes from their home. So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to be part of this.
Excellent, thank you. And Director Patel.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on this board too. I'm I guess the youngest member on this one. I acquired the Country Inn Suites 3.5 years ago. And it is a hidden gem. This is a great community. Very shocked. Every time I learn something, it's like, oh wow, this place is amazing. So thank you for having me, and hopefully we can be here for a long time.
And we're very happy to have you here as a local business investor as well. So thank you so much for that. And just briefly for myself, Steve Dennis. I've lived in the community for over 33 years. I'm a local business owner, a huge fan and supporter of everything that is Cottage Grove. I serve our community in a number of ways. I'm on the City Council with Councilmember Olson. Serve as Mayor Pro Tem, Vice President of the Economic Development Authority. I'm also heavily involved with Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, the directors for the chamber, and very happy with what we're working on here. I think this is a great process, something that's very positive, and will help to pay major dividends for our area as we go through time. So looking forward to all the goodness that comes along with that. And then one last piece it's unrelated to the introductions, but I do want to formally recognize Mr. Matt Wolf, who had been with us here from the inception of our convention as Visitors Bureau. He was instrumental in helping to get this balloon off the ground. And, it takes a lot of hot air to get it to rise. And so there was a tremendous amount of work that was put in behind the scenes and such. And so he has moved on from the city and is now the city administrator for, what city is that? Prescott, Wisconsin. So that's a big thing for us. So, but with that said, unless there's anything else anyone wants to add, we would move on to number 5.2, which is response to previous comments. We did not have any. And last is item number 6, which is adjournment. We'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion made by Vice Chair Olson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Director Patel. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a great day, everyone.